I have been able to gather a large range of information from sources that are openly available, from people who came forward to communicate to me, and from other reputable bodies who are documenting in a very reliable manner information about events in Iran. And I put across to the Iranian government to respond to these allegations and matters I have documented. We produce our reports and submit to the countries concerned to comment on these. If there are factual inaccuracies, they normally point them out. If there are disagreements on interpretation, that's something else. But in this current case, I did not receive any comments from Iran to my report, despite 3 weeks of notice to them on this. And even to date, I have not seen any refutation of any of the matters I have raised in the report. So I am confident that the information sources that are out there are reliable and can be useful in producing information about what's happening in Iran. I am very careful to be balanced, to look at all views and not to be influenced by any particular set of interests or geographical region. I will stand by my statement that every information in that is 100% accurate, and that I say with the kind of phraseology I have said there. If information is coming from a specific source, I mentioned that. If information is coming from a source that I rely upon, I mentioned that as well. So as far as accuracy is concerned, I'm fully confident everything there is fully 100% accurate. What I heard yesterday was that there was no balance in it, that there were good things about Iran that is perhaps not in my report. That may well be. I do recognize that it's not everything about Iran. It's about the more pressing issues that are of concern to somebody who wants to address human rights issues in Iran. So yes, there may be issues in which Iran is doing quite well, but that does not impact upon the major concerns we have, which are to do with the lack of rule of law, primarily, the suppression of space for the opposition, suppression of freedom of assembly and expression, so on and so forth. In my work, I met NGOs who traveled out of Iran, who I believe are recognized by the authorities in Iran, and who were able to cite back to me specific sentences and paragraphs in my report, which I pass on to the authorities for comment. So I have not been listening to just once. I've been listening to all available information, to all sides of the argument. How do I assure authorities that my facts are not influenced by anybody? Because I shall run them past the government of Iran. My report shall be passed on to them. If there are factual inaccuracies, then I'll be very happy to amend in any verifiable factual redirection. I have no agenda apart from stating the facts as they appear to me on the ground, and I will give the strongest weight to information coming out of Iran. But when I'm determined, when I'm able to assess these to be also impartial information, the work of rapporteurs is just to do that, to be free from political influence and to look at the facts. So what I produce actually are outcomes that can be implemented by Iran in order to improve its human rights record. Now, yesterday in my presentation, although my report did not go into any recommendations, I did hint at some of the thoughts that are before me in terms of what could happen. I am quite convinced that the thing to do would be to have a structured set of recommendations that divide across short, medium, and long-term timelines. I did mention some of the steps that Iran should consider taking. These would be a midterm review, a voluntary midterm review of its UPR commitments. They relate to essentially Iran agreeing to implement current provisions in their law and constitution. In the very short space I have in a report and the short time I get in assembly, I have to be structured, organized in a manner that will produce recommendations that can be followed through immediately, and also others which have a much wider impact but might take a bit longer time to address. The most effective strategy to improve the condition of the Iranian people, that is the main task here. My conviction is that Iran cares. The regime does care about what is said about in the outside world. That's why Iran seeks elections to the Human Rights Council, to the other UN bodies. It wants to be embraced in these bodies. I think the best strategy for me to move forward would be to look at ways to engage Iran, rather than to penalize Iran. And like I said, one of the problems with a country mandate is the widespread perception that a country mandate is a punitive measure. It is not. It is in fact an opportunity for the country to engage and walk away from the situation that they are in. My work has the potential to seek a dialogue with Iran as a way of going forward. I believe that the most effective way, the shortest route to getting something done in Iran is to have authorities respond to it. And therefore, I put a premium, I put a lot of emphasis on still maintaining that window for collaboration with Iran. If that doesn't happen, it's still too early to speculate what could happen. But if that doesn't happen, say after a number of months, then we can look at what best strategy I might pursue thereafter. I have picked up a sense of frustration that is out there amongst individuals who have suffered, among NGOs who maintain networks on trying to improve the situation in Iran. And I think while there are still signals coming from Iran of an interest in communicating with me, I should pursue them. I think it's always better to exhaust avenues for cooperation before you think of other options. The work of a rapporteur is structured in a manner that emphasizes a cooperative aspect to this. And I shall not give up on that so long as there's potential for collaboration. And it will be premature in just three months in my work to say, no, it doesn't happen. I think there are opportunities for collaboration. The remark by the delegation yesterday, in full view of the world, that they will supply me information relevant to my work is a very encouraging comment. A large number of delegations I speak to have in mind that human rights issues, there are things to be done immediately. I mentioned yesterday, like release of a number of detainees, do it immediately. There are a number of things that require a lot of time and work, setting up mechanisms, institutional arrangements to make it sustainable, and then even longer time frame efforts that require changing of values and mindsets. Yes, there is a lot of concern about treatment of journalists in Iran. I do notice a worsening situation for journalists in Iran. There's been cases of very severe sentences to bloggers, for example, and reports of internet censorship that limits communication using the internet. A visit by me to Iran will necessarily involve visits to prisons. How many, I haven't determined, but there are many I mentioned in my report. I will be very keen to visit those prisons to see conditions there, speak to detainees and so on. I would also demand to be able to meet Mir Hossain Mousavi, Mr. Mehdi Karoubi, as people I have in my report as people of concern. But there's a pattern emerging from all these cases, and they speak of unfair trials, poor evidentiary standards, and also targeting of human rights defenders. Well, in terms of procedure, well, nothing stops me from putting envelope and posting it to the member concerned. But there are protocols to be followed, and that would be to have it sent through the DPIL channels. And I shall pursue the protocol channel in this, and I'm very happy to have this comment come from Iran, and I shall reach out to him. With regard to the second comment, I'm not quite sure what the issue is. I'm not quite sure what that complaint or format of that would be, if it's a lawsuit or other complaint, I do not know. But my facts are stated there. My report is out there, and I would welcome any response that would be constructive. And if someone feels that I have transgressed laws anywhere, I think they have a duty to ensure that law is followed. I shall welcome that also.
Mr. Shahid, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you all.